in a newspaper article. But at first, Monike's family was skeptical.
My son said, "We've got so many horses at home, why do we need to go somewhere else where there are horses?" But when he came back, he said, "Mum, we've just got to take Monika there." The whole scene, her face just shone. That convinced me it was the right place for her. A situation from her old life with a horse and a riding hall. And the feeling that she was, again, really a part of it all.
A workshop with Thomas Stephenson. A specialist in developmental and individual psychology, he's heading the study being carried out by Roswitha Zink's research group. She and colleague Dorothea Gansterer are presenting and analysing examples from their work. Professor Stephenson had had no previous interest in horses. Now he has to admit that through their way of communicating, horses often get through to patients faster and more directly than human forms of therapy.
A horse remains in exactly the same state as an infant, one of totally open, direct, focused communication.
And that's why the motivation factor is so high.
Precisely. It's also why children accept horses so readily, because they sense that all that matters to the horse is the feedback, this feeling of togetherness.
Horses appeal to us on a level which recalls our earliest experiences of relating. As infants, we express ourselves through movement, facial expressions and gestures. The mother reacts and responds to this. A game of action and reaction begins. Through it, the infant learns to perceive, interpret and regulate its own emotions. Subconsciously, we use this form of communication throughout our lives. Often we express our emotions far more clearly through our body language than through speech. Horses recognize our body language and respond to it.
There's this wonderful parallel between horse and patient and mother and infant. Mother and infant react directly to each other solely with the aim of establishing clear and direct communication. By reacting to each other, they really learn about each other, what the other feels. This is done in a simple and direct way, without the use of any strategies. And it is something which a horse can also offer.
That's what animates us so much in working with horses, this emotional element which we experience so intensively with our mothers, with our parents.
Two who understand each other. This subtle, free communication has nothing to do with drill. Human being and horse react with and to each other. They converse in a language both understand.
It is the innermost nature of a horse to try to interact, to be out and about exploring the world. That is why, for many horses with a talent for interacting and relating, being a therapy horse is a wonderful occupation, because there is always something going on, something new to experience. And they are not so much bound to one place.
Louisa had stopped speaking. She wouldn't talk at school, with friends, and certainly not with therapists. It's a disorder known as mutism. Louisa was a prisoner in her own world.
There was a time in my life that was very difficult. I had started to feel that I was different from most other children my age, that I wasn't being shown the respect I felt I deserved.
Wie ich bin. Und ja, dann habe ich halt
So I cut myself off.
abgekapselt und
I grew quieter and quieter, focusing more and more on myself and losing the ability to communicate
irgendwie den
with other
Zugang zu den
people.
anderen Menschen verloren. Und auch zu Hause wurde es immer schwieriger.
Things also became more difficult at home. Then I didn't enjoy my food anymore, so I ate very little and lost a lot of weight. Then, for some time, I was no longer at home, but in a clinic.
Mutism is a communication disorder, which is often accompanied by social anxiety disorders and depression. In puberty, mutism can lead to anorexia. Louisa was close to starving to death and needed to be fed through a tube. She felt like a shadow in the world, like a ghost. But at some point, Louisa decided to seek a way out of her isolation, and horses proved a great help. They expected nor demanded anything from her, especially words. Initially, therapy horse Flitzy provided valuable information on how this withdrawn girl felt. The therapist saw that Louisa, who didn't speak, could most certainly communicate and wanted to.
Das Sprechen oder Kommunizieren mit den Pferden.
Communicating with horses is like music.
So wie Musik. In der Zeit, wo es schwierig
During
war,
that difficult time, I began playing the violin again, simply because I could express myself on it. I could play irrespective of how I was feeling.
einfach spielen können, egal ob es mir jetzt gut oder schlecht gegangen ist. In der Musik
When I'm playing, all I sense is me. I can express myself any way I wish. And when I'm together with the horses, I again find myself a step closer to speech or communication. Horses give me feedback.
die geben mir dann eine Rückmeldung.
In other words, they reflect a person's emotions and behavior and react to them. Horses can express very precisely what they perceive from a human. Louisa is learning to understand these equine signals.
Can you see her nostrils? Are they puckered or very smooth?
They're wide open, says Louisa.
Then she's really open too. A horse's breathing is an important feedback signal. It tells you whether the horse likes being with you, whether it is bored, or whether it is in some conflict situation.
Horses have many ways of showing how they perceive a person. They use their ears, neck, tail, legs, facial expression, posture, almost imperceptible muscular contraction, or their breathing. It takes a lot of knowledge and experience to understand these messages. Louisa was excited by this subtle way of communicating even in her very first therapy session. But can therapeutic success, as achieved in Louisa's case, be measured? The therapists at E.Motion have evaluated their video sequences. In diagrams, they have been able to show for the first time how communication and interaction between man and horse works. A specialist in developmental research, Professor Thomas Stephenson is astonished at the number of parallels there are in communication between horse and patient and between mother and infant. He believes that using horses for therapeutic purposes opens up undreamt of possibilities for healing.
Diese Art von Interaktion, wo es wirklich
With this kind of interaction, which truly involves totally direct communication, something intersubjective, there are a whole range of possibilities that make a horse superior even to a human therapist. I'm referring to a horse not allowing itself to be drawn into a certain kind of, to put it flippantly, neurotic communication, which could again inflict previous patterns on the child. The horse reacts directly to what the child generates in the form of tension or communication weaknesses. And the child senses what effect it has and also notices the change when it causes the horse to move away or to come closer. In this way, to some extent, a child learns self-efficacy.
Over 9 months, Monika has made great progress. Just how much of this she owes to horses cannot be expressed in numbers or data. It's not important for Monika to know how therapy horse Flitzy is helping her. She just feels that it is. Has Monika learnt a lot through practicing with Flitzy? The answer's clear. And whether she's learnt more through her head or her heart is also clear. Yes, her heart. She's also got a lot more muscle strength, especially in her hands. But what does Monika find harder, using her hands or tensing her stomach muscles and sitting upright? Sitting. Monika's speech has got a lot better, especially her ability to say Flitzy.
Vor allem flitzig. Ja, gut.
Horses like Flitzy offer great chances of recovery for patients like Monika. Their social nature and their way of communicating can help to heal both physical and mental disorders.